At Cornhusker Auto Center, bragging is not our style, but that doesn't mean our customers can't.
Great people, easy transaction, went out of their way to help. Thank you.
Amazing place to buy a vehicle. Great staff all around.
I would recommend Cornhusker Auto to anyone.
Timeout!
Welcome back to Timeout, where we're closing in on November, which means sweater weather. That means playoffs. We'll talk about the first round in just a little bit, but first let's recap a few big games from the previous week. Start off with Thursday night, where Neligh-Oakdale traveled to 7th-ranked Lutheran High Northeast. Neligh-Oakdale coming off an Elkhorn Valley loss, which is a team that Lutheran High, if you're not mistaken, defeated by 4 touchdowns earlier this season. Lutheran High led 42-40 after the second half kickoff return went for a touchdown. The difference, though, was the third quarter. Lutheran High had a turnover. Neligh-Oakdale had a touchdown plus a 2-point conversion. Repeat that 3 times. That makes a difference in the ball game. Neligh-Oakdale, 86 points. Lutheran High scored 50 points, and they still had the 35-point rule on them. Jackson Kent ran for 260 yards and 4 touchdowns on the ground, but the difference was turnovers. There were 11 total turnovers in the game. Neligh-Oakdale forced 8 takeaways. Here's Coach Ron Beacom.
Yeah, it's all matchups, but yeah, I do think this is a group that's a hungrier group. Last year all these juniors that are playing were only sophomores, and they really didn't understand maybe what they're playing for, and we ran into a good team that made it to the semis when it was all over and done with.
The trigger man for Neligh-Oakdale was senior quarterback Hunter Scharf. The 3-year starter completed 14 passes for 316 yards and 6 touchdowns. And on the ground, he ran the ball 28 times for 77 yards and another 3 touchdowns. But in a way, the guy who kind of stole the show a little bit was junior Julian Hearn. Receiving-wise, he had 5 catches for 169 yards and 4 touchdowns. Rushing the ball 10 times, 112 yards, 2 more touchdowns. That's right, 100 yards both receiving and rushing. Here's Julian Hearn.
The coach told us that we were going to have to come out and execute, and that's what we did.
We haven't even gotten to the state record that was set on Thursday night. Hartington-Newcastle traveled to 5th-ranked Bloomfield. Bloomfield quarterback Braden Eisenhauer tied an 8-man record with 56 rushing carries, 336 yards. The Bees were somehow able to overcome 3 one-play touchdowns for Hartington-Newcastle. The Bees completed their 3rd straight undefeated season, 46-36 victory over Hartington-Newcastle. Turning our attention over to Friday night action, 6th-ranked Plainview at top-ranked Humphrey St. And talking with head coach Eric Kessler, he felt like this is a big game where, his team really hadn't been tested a whole lot this year. They showed that they were ready for the challenge on the opening kickoff. It was 24-0 just 2 minutes and 50 seconds into the game. The thing is for the next 45 minutes, however, the teams played pretty even after that. 54-26 final to decide the D2-4 title. Taylor Wemhoff finished with 32 carries, 187 yards, and 3 touchdowns on the ground. For Plainview, Nate Christensen, 20 of 32 passing, 188 yards through the air. He had 3 touchdowns passing. Here's St. Fran coach Eric Kessler.
We were ready to play. I knew that this week. I knew kind of just before the game that we were going to come out and play well. And a credit to them. They could have been, it didn't look good for them. They kept fighting and made it a ball game for sure. So a lot of credit to their coaches and their players, a lot of character.
Another matchup that was probably one of the best 11-man games in the area, regardless of class. Number 2 ranked Oakland-Craig at number 3 ranked BRLD. A couple of 4th quarter rushing touchdowns, one each by Caden Nelson and Ian Lundquist, really the difference here. Oakland-Craig stepped up big on defense, pitched a shutout over the last 15 minutes, including a turnover on downs and a fumble recovery to seal the win. Oakland-Craig enters the playoffs with a 40-30 victory. Speaking of those playoffs, 8-man teams will get underway on Thursday. Over in Class D1, Howells Dodge is the number 1 seed in the East bracket. A couple of big games to watch out for in D1 also. 9th-seeded West Holt travels to 8th-seeded Neligh-Oakdale. Neligh-Oakdale getting a home game after that big win on Thursday night. And Lutheran High still gets a home game even after losing its regular season finale. They host Lourdes Central Catholic out in Nebraska City. A couple of other games to watch out for is Creighton at Wisner-Pilger. That's right, the Bulldogs, fresh off their state title, are a number 12 seed this year. Over in Class D2, the top 2 seeds in the East are from Northeast Nebraska with Humphrey St. Francis and Bloomfield. Another game to keep an eye on is 12th-seeded Randolph at 5th-seeded Plainview. These two teams played in the state playoffs a year ago. This will be the 4th meeting of these teams in the last 2 years. Checking out 11-man brackets that begin on Friday over in Class C1. Pierce is actually a number 4 seed. There are 4 undefeated teams in Class C1. The Blue Jays will host 13th-seeded Chase County. And another game to keep an eye on, Wayne is an 11 seed. They're fresh off a huge upset victory over Wahoo Newman. Don't look, but the Blue Devils enter the playoffs with a 7-2 record. They travel to 6th-seeded Kearney Catholic on Friday. Over in Class C2, Battle Creek is a number 8 seed. They'll take on 9th-seeded Fremont Bergen. Two teams are kind of trending in opposite directions. Battle Creek has won 8 straight games, whereas Fremont Bergen had dropped back-to-back going into the last week. Oakland-Craig leads area C2 teams with the number 2 seed. They'll take on 15th-seeded Hartington-Cedar Catholic on Friday. We'll be previewing more on the first round in the paper later this week. And for all the local sports coverage, just buy the paper, that digital subscription, $4.99 a month. Trust me, it's well over the Halloween candy budget. Until next time, I'm Nick Benish, and thanks for taking a time out with us.